Good morning. Today our discussion will be on factor analysis. Factor analysis. So, I will start with the famous quote of Lord Kelvin, the British scientist. What he said, when you can measure what you are speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot express it in numbers, your knowledge is of a meager and unsatisfactory kind. The measurement is necessary. That means, what I mean to say, suppose whenever you talk about any system of its behavior, then the behavior pattern you must be able to measure. You must able to give a number to it. For example, in our department, there is one important area to work on, that is supply chain management. And we talk much about supply chain coordination. So, we may say that X supply chain is coordination good, Y supply chain coordination bad, like this. When you talk of in this manner, that this knowledge is not perfect. If I say that yes, suppose there is the particular food, let it be paddy supply chain in Indian context, then you are able to tell that okay, at the local level, block level, or at the state level, that the different agent how they are coordinated and the measure is 0.9, suppose something like this, then this is a valuable knowledge. That is what is important, and that is said by Lord Kelvin. So, second gentleman, I think he is one of the famous statistician, Charles Edward Spearman. So, Charles Spearman, he measured the human intelligence. That means, what I mean to say, suppose person X intelligence level or IQ is some value, person Y some value like this. So, human intelligence, you can understand it's such a concept. It is not that 5 kg of rice or 25 kg of some other product. It is not like this. You cannot just take some this type of measurement and go. It is a soft thing. For example, like supply chain coordination is also a soft thing. Your mental measurement of that intelligence, human intelligence, it is not visible. These all are basically unobservable things, unobservable. I can say the coordination is unobservable. You cannot directly go and measure. Intelligence also unobservable. Then question comes, how do you measure such unobservables? So, there are certain techniques, and the factor analysis is one of such techniques, and probably the one of the best technique that is used in measuring unobservables. Okay. The key concept here is measurement is required, but measurement is not easy. The world is abundant with immeasurable things which cannot be measured. I will give you some example here. A psychologist is interested to measure the mental ability of a person. A safety manager is interested to measure safety environment of his workplace. A supply chain analyst is interested to measure supply chain coordination. A marketing manager is interested to measure the purchase intention of customers. A welfare officer is interested to measure the quality of work life in factories, and many more. You can find out 100 such items, examples, where you see that it is not there is one instrument, hardware based instrument, you will go and measure, it is not possible. Wherever 90% of the cases we take decision based on this type of concepts. So, another word is, I want to say that concepts. Many a time we say that constructs. So, by saying this we are basically unobservable concept, construct. By saying this we are basically telling to you that there are certain things which are hidden, unobservables, that is not directly measurable, but those things are very, very important, and because those things causes some things to happen. For example, if there is not proper coordination in the supply chain performance will be poor. Okay. Suppose the quality of work life is not good, then the human productivity, safety and all other issues in the company, that will be poor. So, that means although there are many things like this which are unobservable, which are concepts, which construct, hidden, these cannot be directly measured, but their effects means because of the presence of these constructs or concept or unobservable things manifested into different symptoms. What I mean to say? I mean to say that suppose there is construct, concept, or we can say factor. So, these things manifested in terms of symptoms. So, because for example, someone is risk taking in nature, So, what will be his symptoms? He will maybe a rule breaker, not follow the traffic rule. So, you are able to see this symptom, that not following the rules may be rebellious, but it may be show that risk taking, that attitude, what is in his personality, that is the main reason, the cause of this rule breaking. That is why we say that sometimes hidden or immeasurable constructs or factors are there which are causing these symptoms, and these symptoms can be used to measure this factor or construct. Okay. That means factor or construct causing the symptoms can be used to measure construct. Getting me? So, essentially the concept is like this. If I say this factor is F and there are several symptoms which we can say the manifestation or manifest variable, the symptoms are nothing but manifestation of this hidden thing. So, this manifest variable, if we say x, correct. So, that means what is available with you? You are observing this x and you want to quantify f. Getting me? You observing this, and so that means with this, if we can say something like this, that you are observing x which is p cross 1. That means p number of, this is a variable vector having p manifest variables, p manifest variables. Okay. It definitely coming from a population. Now, suppose this x is having the mean vector like this, which will also be mu 1, mu 2, mu p. This will be p cross 1 vector. This x is also having a covariance matrix, which is sigma, capital sigma. This one is, you can write sigma 1 1, sigma 1 2, sigma 1 p, sigma 1 2, sigma 2 2, sigma 2 p, like this, sigma 1 p, sigma 2 p, sigma p p. Okay. So, this is what is known about the population. That means there are p variables, p mean vector, p cross p covariance matrix. The mean, that mu 1 to mu p or sigma 1 and to sigma p, these values may not be known, usually not known from the population point of view. Okay. Now, what we have described here, we said that in this place we described that these x you are observing because there is certain underlying causes or hidden constructs or factors. So, if this is the case, if we consider now, consider m factors. Okay. So, then my f is the vector of factors which is m cross 1, this will be your f 1, f 2 like f m. And you were saying that whatever you observe in x, this is because of the causal factor f is causing this. Then we can write linear regression like equations also, but first I will pictorially represent this. So, what we can write, I have x 1, this is my one observed variables, my second observed variable is x 2, like this my last observed variable is x p, and we are saying that there is factor f 1, f 2 and f m factors which are causing these x variables to occur, to happen. So, in this case I can say x 1 is caused by f 1, x 1 also caused by f 2, like this f m. What we are trying to say, that there are m factors which influencing this x 1. Because of these factors x 1 you are able to observe. So, then if I write like this, if x 1 is caused by f 1, I can write lambda 1 1 for x 1 1, f 1 1, then lambda 1 is caused by 2, lambda 1 is caused by m. Okay. So, what you can do, the same thing will happen to x 2. So, what we will write then? This one will be lambda 2 1, then lambda 2 2, lambda 2 m. Then another last one is your correct. So, lambda p 1, lambda p 2, lambda p m. When we are assuming, what we are assuming, this f causing x. So, these are the all influencing coefficient, influential coefficient. So, factor f 1's influence on x 1 can be measured through lambda 1 1 like this. Now, in addition to this, what we assume that these factors collectively cannot explain everything about x 1. So, there will be one error term. Correct. Now, using this, but please remember here we are not talking anything about the relationship between f 1, f 2 and f m. When we are not saying anything here, we are assuming that these factors are independent orthogonal. So, we will see the assumption later on. With this, if I want to write down certain equation, can I not write down regression like equation x 1 equal to mu 1 plus lambda 1 1 f 1 plus lambda 1 2 f 2 like lambda 1 m f m. See here what we are writing, x 1 equal to lambda 1 1 f 1, lambda 1 2 f 2, lambda 1 n f m. What more is there? Delta 1 is there. So, plus delta 1. Similarly, you can write x 2 equal to mu 2 plus lambda 2 is affected by 1 f 1, lambda 2 2 f 2 like lambda 2 m f m plus delta 2. So, in this manner you can write x j equal to mu j plus lambda j 1 f 1, lambda j 2 f 2, lambda j m f m plus delta j, and final one is x p equal to mu p plus lambda p 1 f 1, lambda p 2 f 2, lambda p m f m plus delta p. Correct. So, that means in matrix form you can write x 1, x 2, x j, x p equal to mu 1, mu 2, mu j, mu p plus your lambda values are there, lambda 1 1, lambda 1 2, lambda 1 m, lambda 2 1, lambda 2 2, lambda 2 m. So, like this lambda j 1, lambda j 2, lambda j m. In the same manner lambda p1, lambda p2, lambda pm into your lambda f1, f2, this will be your, let it be fj, then your what will happen ultimately f1 to fm. So, I am not giving fj, I let it be given fk and fm. What is happening here then? You have p cross 1 equal to p cross 1 plus this is p cross m into m cross 1. Then one more thing is there, that is delta. So, you will write delta 1, delta 2, delta j and delta p. Okay. So, now I am writing this in matrix notation x equal to mu plus lambda, capital lambda f plus I can write this is delta. You can write like this. So, what will happen? Actually, this one is your x, this one is your mu, this is your lambda, this one is f and this one is delta. So, as a result, your dimension p cross 1, p cross 1, p cross m, m cross 1, p cross 1. This is what is dimension. So, now you can further simplify this x minus mu lambda f plus delta. So, mean subtracted original variables is a function of the factors plus error. This equation, if I say 1, this is the factor model. Okay. This equation is known as factor model. This equation will be further handled through several assumptions. I think all of you know that expected value of x is mu, covariance of x is capital sigma. Now, what will be the our assumption is expected value of f, this one is 0. The reason is here you have taken mean subtracted. So, expected value of f is 0. Assumptions, expected value of delta, that is error term, that is 0. Okay. Now, we want to make this type of things, that covariance of f is expected value of f transpose, because expected value of f is 0, this one, this will be I. And your covariance of another one, the delta, that will be psi, which is a diagonal matrix psi will be p p p cross p, so p p. and covariance of f delta, that is 0. That means f and delta, this covariance is 0. So, these are what are the assumptions under. If these assumptions hold, then this factor model is known as exploratory factor model. Orthogonal, definitely exploratory plus orthogonal. Okay. So, here I think I should say little bit of as we have started with little bit of the types. We are saying orthogonal because they are independent, f1, f2, fm, they are independent. There will be oblique factor model when you will say no, they are not independent, there is correlation between them. Getting me? So, this correlation coefficient will be phi 2 1, this will be your phi m 2, this will be your phi m 1. So, when you allow covariance component between the factors, then your factor model will become oblique factor model. Now, this oblique factor model will be treated separately and we will discuss orthogonal factor model. This is one. Second one is important concept here is that we are saying the types of factor model. Types, one is exploratory factor model, another one is confirmatory factor model. Okay. Exploratory and confirmatory factor model. What is exploratory and what is confirmatory? What is the difference between these two? See, in the first case, we are saying that x minus mu equal to lambda f plus delta. Here we have taken all x and all f connected together because of this delta matrix lambda, this capital lambda matrix. Because of this capital lambda matrix, we have connected both. That means, what I mean to say, what I am trying to say, that it is something like this. I have f1, f2 to fm and I have x1, x2 to xp, and what we are trying to say that each one of x is dependent on f, all f. I do not know exactly which are the x values or which are the x variables that are basically coming out of the f, which of the f's, I do not know. That is why what I am doing, I am allowing all the full sets of relationships here first hand. And what you are saying that okay, this is my observed variable structure, and you find out as many factors as possible, and then you say that okay, what is this number of factors and what are those the factors that are linked to what type of variables. Under this condition, you are exploring about the possibility of hidden factors. That is why it is exploratory factor analysis. So, here also it will be linked, this also will be linked to. So, everything is linked to, I think this already done. Getting me? Now, confirmatory factor analysis is different. What is that? There you say that f1, f2, suppose m factors are there, but you clearly know what are the x1, x2, maybe x3, what are the variables x5, x6. So, let it be x p minus 2, x p minus 1 and x p. You know clearly, you know that 3 variables are because of factor 1, then another 2 manifest variable because of factor 2, this variable because of factor m. So, well in advance because of your research work, your literature review and survey, all those things, you know which are the manifest variable representing what type of which factor. So, essentially what is happening here, so f1 to all other these variables the connectivity is not required, the relationship it is not required, it is coming from here only. So, this type of factor analysis, the second this type of factor analysis is confirmatory. Why it is confirmatory? The reason is you are saying that there are suppose few manifest variables, let it be 3 or 5 related to f1, there are some other manifest variables related to f2 and you want to confirm whether you are correct or wrong. This is your hypothesis, let it be that the first factor may be something, let it be the supply chain coordination. So, there are certain indicators you are finding out and you are saying these indicators are measuring supply chain coordination, these indicators are measuring something else like this. Then through statistical route you are confirming that whether what you have assumed or what you have hypothesized, what you have proposed, they are correct or false. That is your confirmatory factor analysis. Okay. So, we will stick to exploratory factor analysis now. Then I want to understand the purpose of exploratory factor analysis, correct. What is first question in factor analysis with respect to the examples given to you? So, I think around 7-8 examples we have discussed. My question is, what is common in the examples given above? The variables to be measured are unobservable, you have seen that, hidden or latent and known as construct or factors we have discussed. They all manifest some symptoms like in terms of x. So, this is f, this one is x. Factor analysis quantifies those construct or factors with the help of manifest variable. That is the first thing what we are doing in exploratory as well as in confirmatory also you will be doing the same thing. So, this is the illustration. Now, key question 2. I have a p number of variables, that means p information, p dimensional information base. I do not want this much of information. What I want? I want the reduced information. See, if I require to know 2 dimensions only, then I take decision, I act, I control system, all things will be much easier if there are 5 different dimensions compared to that. What will happen? Suppose you think of a pointer, what we used to have. In this pointer, suppose there are 3 buttons, one button to just point the lecture, the sentence word, another one is just from you just scroll from one slide to another slide, there is the third one is the switch off, this type of things are there. Okay. So, I must know these three types information is known to me and I will do. Now, suppose there you instead of these 3 that n number of informations are available, and second thing is that if you require to go for slide change, you also require to do something else before, that is dependent things are there also. So, then what will happen? You will be confused. The same thing will happen in so that is why what we are saying, the lesser the information content, the better is the design. That means, we want one inference system or one decision support system where our information will be at the reduced dimensions. So, factor analysis also do this, perform this one. And what is information in factor in your data set? That is the covariance matrix. So, factor analysis uses the covariance matrix. So, the purpose of factor analysis is to describe, if possible, the covariance relationship among many variables in terms of a few underlying and but observable random quantities called factors. That is the purpose. So, we are now in a position that we know what is construct or factor, what are manifest variables, and what is the exploratory factor model, and what are the different assumptions related to this factor model. Okay. So, now the crux of the matter is variability explanation. We are saying that information is covariance of x, which is sigma. So, you are creating a factor model which is x minus mu equal to lambda f plus delta, we are using lambda f plus delta, getting me? This is your factor model. I want to know that what is the variability you are able to explain using this model. Whose variability? Variability of x. What is that? That is the covariance of x, p cross p. So, if I want to understand covariance, can I not write like this? Covariance of x equal to expected value of x minus mu transpose. We have seen earlier also. So, that means this quantity we can write like this, x minus mu. Suppose if I say this is my equation 1, from equation 1 I can write lambda f plus delta into lambda f plus delta transpose. X minus mu equal to lambda f plus delta, lambda minus delta transpose. So, I am writing like this, lambda f into this one. So, this one will be f transpose lambda transpose plus lambda f delta transpose plus delta f transpose lambda transpose plus delta transpose. Okay. Now, that capital lambda is the regression like constants you have seen earlier. So, this constant will come. So, lambda expected value of f transpose capital lambda transpose plus lambda expected value of f delta transpose plus expected value of delta f transpose lambda transpose plus expected value of delta transpose. Now, you have to see the covariance this assumptions. Okay. So, I am putting the assumptions parallelly here. So, what we say assumption is expected value of f transpose is I. So, I will put like this lambda I lambda transpose plus lambda expected value of f and delta, where what we have written related to f and delta, this one, this is 0. So, this into 0. So, similarly, this 0 into delta lambda capital lambda transpose plus what is the covariance of delta, that is expected value of delta transpose. So, this one. So, this is psi. So, then what is happening to the resultant matrix now? Capital lambda I lambda is lambda lambda transpose plus this. What is this? This is your sigma value. Covariance of X is capital sigma. This is equation number 2, and this is the variability explanation point of view this equation. So, that means if you know this lambda, capital lambda, and then psi, you know this. Getting me? What is this capital lambda here? This one is nothing but, can you remember what we have given? Lambda 1 f1, lambda 1 2 f2, like this, lambda 1 m fm, lambda 2 1 f1, lambda 2 2 f2, lambda 2 m fm, like this. So, this lambda part I am writing now. So, lambda p1, lambda p2, lambda pm. This one is P cross M matrix. What is this lambdas basically? Suppose this one. The loadings, they are termed as. So, if you take a general formula like xj, what we have written? Lambda j 1 1 1 2 1 m, yes, j 1 x 1, lambda j 2 x 2, like this. If I write lambda j k, your j k, sorry, lambda x j, you write lambda j 1 f 1, lambda j 2 f 2, lambda j k f k. So, similarly, lambda your j m f m plus delta j. This is the original equation we have, lambda j 1 f 1, like this. So, see what is happening here. This general one is lambda j k. This is the general loading. Okay. So, it will be for j equal to 1 to p, k equal to 1 to m. So, this one is known as loading matrix. Loading matrix means this is usually factor loading matrix, and each lambda j k, they are the loading of kth factor on jth variable, x variable. Okay. This one is lambda j k is known as loading of kth factor on jth x. Correct. Now, then what is your lambda transpose? So, if you write down this, you have to write down lambda 1 1, lambda 1 2, lambda 1 m, 2 1, 2 2, 2 m, p 1, p 2, p m, then transpose 1 1, 1 2, 1 m, 2 1, 2 2, 2 m, p 1, p 2, p m. This is your p cross 1, this is now m cross p, and you must get p cross p, because this p cross m, p and m cross p. Okay. So, if you just multiply the matrix lambda 1 1 into lambda 1 1, lambda 1 2 into lambda 1 2, lambda 1 m into lambda 1 m. What is changing here? This 1 remain constant, this 1, but let k I am giving, k is basically 1 to m, the factor is changing, k equal to 1 to m and this square. Lambda 1 1 square plus lambda 1 2 square plus lambda 1 m square, like this. Plus, then second one will be again k equal to 1 to m, you see lambda 1 1 to 1 m and 2 1 to 2 m. So, that means lambda 1 k lambda 2 k, the covariance part is coming here. So, same manner k equal to 1 to m lambda 1 k and lambda no k is 1 to m. Now, it is 1 then 1 2 then 1 p, this is p cross p matrix. Lambda 1 k lambda p k. Okay. Lambda this row vis-a-vis this column, this is coming here. So, same manner now it will be a symmetric matrix, k equal to 1 to m lambda 1 k lambda 2 k, this will be lambda 2 k square, k equal to 1 to m, same manner lambda 2 k lambda p k, k equal to 1 to m. In the same way it will come, k equal to 1 to m lambda 1 k lambda p k, same manner you go, it will be lambda p k square, k equal to 1 to m, this will be p cross p. Okay. So, this diagonal element is the variance component, of diagonal element is the covariance component, and this diagonal element relates to each of the variables also. Then, if I write down further, I can straightway write that lambda lambda transform plus psi. If I write, this is nothing but, I am not writing the off diagonal element now, only diagonal element I am writing 1 k square, k equal to 1 to m lambda 2 k square, k equal to 1 to m lambda k equal to 1 to m p k square. Then of diagonal elements already you have written with lambda 1 k, then lambda k and something like this, already you have written this, plus our psi is psi 1 1 0 0 0 psi 2 2 0. So, like this 0 0 psi p p. So, this is what is your sigma. So, if I write this sigma in the same manner the way we have written in matrix, so that means this one will be sigma 1 1, sigma 1 2, sigma 1 p, then sigma 1 2, sigma 1 p, now sigma 2 2, sigma p p. This sigma is like this. So, this is p cross p. Then if you compare this versus this diagonal element, what you will get? Sigma 1 1 equal to sum total of lambda 1 k square, k equal to 1 to m, correct, plus psi 1 1, yes or no? So, similarly, you will be getting lambda sigma 2 2 equal to k equal to 1 to m lambda 2 k square plus psi 2 2. So, in the same manner, if I want to understand here, suppose Jj, let it be write down Jj, because we are interested in the variance components Jj. So, what will happen here then? K equal to 1 to m lambda j k square plus psi j. Then actually what is this? See, now try to understand the variability part. Our variable is xj in this equation, corresponding variable is xj. It has sigma jj, that is the total variability. So, I can say this total is sigma jj. Now, this is divided into two parts. If I say this is the case where this portion k equal to 1 to m lambda j square and this portion is phi jj. So, what I am trying to say then, that sigma jj is partitioned into two parts, correct. This one is what? Lambda jj. You see, you are extracting m factors, and lambda j1 square plus lambda j2 square plus lambda j3 square, like this up to lambda j m square. So, this is the contribution by the m common factors. This is the contribution by the m common factors, and this psi jj is something which is not contributed by the common factors. That is why this one is known as communality, and we denote it in terms of h j square, communality, and this one is unique to xj. The common factors are not able to explain this much of variability. This is unexplained. This one is unexplained one. This is explained by the common factor. This is unexplained. So, it is, we can say unique. We say unique or specific variance of xj. Okay. So, it can be like this. So, unique and specific, again some you can argue that this portion which is related to xj, precisely related to xj, plus something which are, because you have taken m factors and some other maybe variable correlation, some other variable you have not considered, your data collection, many things. So, error also may be included here. But in factor analytics analysis term, we say usually we denote like this: the variability of xj is because of the communality and because of the uniqueness of that variable, correct. So, what do you want then? You definitely want to maximize the communality.
The first part represents the variability with other components.
Common factors contributing towards explaining the observed variables variability. So, that means what is the variance part from the, what is the contribution for the first factor? Lambda 1 square. What is the contribution towards variability to the second factor? That is what we are saying, that second factor lambda 1, that if it is variable xj, then j1 square, if then j2 square, j3 square, lambda, that all lambda square. These are contribution from each of the factors in explaining to the variability of the xj, that variable, and something you will not be able to explain. You can explain if you suppose you extract p factors out of p x variables, okay, everything will come under this communality, but that is not the purpose of factor analysis. Factor analysis one hand wants to reduce the dimensions, other hand it will do in such a manner that the factors can be linked with the original variables and naming of factors can be possible. Getting me? Now, with respect to another one concept here, what will be the covariance of x and f? X is your original variable, f is the factor. Okay. So, your expected value of x minus mu and then f minus expected value of f transpose, that will be the case. Expected value of f is what? 0. So, ultimately this is expected value of x minus mu f transpose. Now, what is x minus mu? X minus mu is lambda f plus delta. So, then x minus mu f transpose is lambda f delta f transpose. So, lambda f delta plus delta f delta. Now, if I take expected value of all those things, so ultimately this equal to expected value of this equal to expected value of this expected value of this. It will delta will lambda will come, expected value of f transpose plus this one will be 0. Now, f transpose expected value is I loading. That loading matrix is coming into consideration. Okay. I think that we have explained the primarily the conceptual model of factor analysis. This is whatever we have discussed, it is just the conceptual model, that what is factor analysis, what is exploratory factor analysis, and how the variance of individual observed variables are partitioned into communality and specific factors. And but what is require, our definitely our next topic will be estimation.
Estimation of
Lambdas. That lambda matrix you do not know this, na? This lambda matrix is not known to you. You have to estimate. So, there are different method of estimation. Okay. But I thought of giving you one example. Let us see one example here. Okay. This example with respect to the factor analysis, this one is a study conducted by Lawley and Maxwell in 1971. The purpose is to measure the general intelligence. So, for students 220 students were considered, and the variables that were taken, these are observed variables. So, these are, suppose the first one Gaelic, English, history, these are basically the verbal subjects, and arithmetic, algebra and geometry, these are your mathematical subject. What happened, in order to test the general intelligence of these many students, so these 6 subject performance, that means performance of each students on these 6 subjects were what I can say obtained, and then with this data set factor analysis was conducted, and to see that whether that these 6 x variables what you are observing, they are actually 6 or these can be combined into several reduced factors, number of factors. Okay. So, that means what is happening here, that we are talking about sample. but so far what I have discussed, we have discussed for population, because we have taken mu, we have taken sigma, we talk about lambda, we talk about psi, all those things related to population. Definitely during estimation time we will see this sample part, but let us concentrate on this example now. Then the immediate step, you have to see the correlation matrix. You see, the if I go by the correlation coefficient between the variables, there are few variables point with correlation more than 0.3. For example, x1, x2 0.44, 0.41 like this. So, 0.60 is the maximum. So, from correlation matrix also you can find out certain clues that whether you go for factor analysis or not. That factorability criteria, that means the data matrix must be factorable. If you have seen in principal component analysis, I say that Bartlett's sphericity test. What we have assumed there? Bartlett sphericity test. We assume H0 that R is I and H1 R not equal to I. That means the correlation coefficient you have tested and combiningly you have tested this. Okay. So, here I think we definitely require Bartlett's sphericity test to see that whether we will go for factor analysis or not, because if there is no that not significant much correlation, what is the use? But factor analysis from correlation coefficient point of view, if there is 0.3 or more correlation coefficients, a large number of correlation coefficients having 0.3 or more, then it is recommended you can go for factor analysis and you will get certain benefits. Okay. So, we will stop now and next class I will explain the parameter estimation, basically that loading, how to estimate the loading vector, loading matrix. Okay. Thank you very much.